to take off, I want to note some of the concerns you raised about your engagement with the process, and just to say that you sum it up to say that in the 9 times that you visited the commission, of course, an interview wasn't held until a few days ago. The commission did apply a lot of efforts to reach you by mail. At one point in time, people at your house signed for the mail, and I don't know if you are acquainted with one Mr. Bien, whom we understood is an in-law to you. He also confirmed receiving the mail and that he mailed the invitation since June 2008 to you. But because we didn't get any further confirmation of that, we assume you didn't receive, and it was necessary to publish to give that notice. That's the only reason why we published. And then when you called me, I confirmed receiving an address and telephone number. And the number, the email were all used, and according to our staff, it bounced back. That is why I asked that you give me the address directly and the email. And since that time, our communication has improved and flow very fluently up to now. Howbeit, we are glad that we have come to this point, that you are here today, and like you said, you met with the inquiry unit a few days before now, and we are making progress.
Thank you, sir.
So please, it was not out of prejudice or bias, and all of those who were published in one way or another where attempts were made to reach them, and communications were ignored, or better still, there were no contact and we had no way of connecting with them. So thank you, sir. One thing I would like you to kindly go over in your presentation, you were a little bit saddened about the period 1980 to 1985 or 86. During that period, there was a military coup in 1980, and the commission is really probing into how the coup took place, what are some of the underpinnings, events and activities that occurred. We are certain you were in prison at the time of the coup, but by your affiliation with the government and the governing council at the time, perhaps you have some information you could share with the commission. And then beyond that, there was the 1983 Nima raid. What is your information since you were in government at the time? And reference quote-unquote law, you spoke to a number of false coups where people just made up things. How many of those fake coups have occurred during the period 1980 up to 1985? And then if there are any other events you recollect, information you have, you could help us fill in that gap, because obviously during your presentation, there wasn't much said during the period 1980 up to 86 when you resigned. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As indicated, I was incarcerated on March 10, 1980. On the 12th of April, Saturday, 1980, I was released from custody and proceeded to the executive mansion. In fact, let me say very accurately what my activities were on that day, from the time I was released from the post stacket until I ended up at the mansion. First thing I did was, once released, I went home in search of my family, because I wasn't sure. My brother then at the time, he also was in detention. My wife and the kids were, really, they went through that's history now, but they had their own issues, being a foreign lady here with my young son, were actually at my uncle's. So I went home first to find out how they were doing, because I had heard, in fact, the day that she had fallen out at the Justice Ministry trying to get Arnold Chesson to issue some permit to see us. She had been injured, and then I guess was taken to the EW hospital. So to make a long story short, my first duty was to try to go home, which I did. Second thing I did, and I'd just like to collaborate this with your inquiry unit, because they ask the same question. In prison, in addition to being flogged every morning and every afternoon, they put these rolls in your hair, the Liberian prison where they cut your hair and put these rolls in it. So I went to my uncle and got a haircut, something like you see now. Just cut off the head and make sure my head didn't look that prison type situation. It's the second thing I did. The third thing I did was to go from there to come back to the mansion, because I was, asked to go. When I arrived at the executive mansion, I met the late Bacchus and Armo Oscar Jaikuya and a few others under the Palava hut behind the mansion. The government or the coup makers had not moved even into the mansion. The operations was behind the Palava hut. As I indicated in my narrative, within the course of those activities, there are all these rumors about counter coup, and the intelligence, all of us being new to government, particularly at that level. Remember, until this time, I was only an assistant minister. I hadn't even attended cabinet meetings. In fact, the only time that I had an opportunity to attend a meeting that was more or less for cabinet type was after the rights riots in 1979, when a lot of ministers, were particularly my ministry. Minister Blama was out, Minister Norman, who was Deputy Foreign Instructor, Christian Topple Norman, she was out, and I was really the only person in the ministry at the time, and that was the only time I even had access to anything in terms of how the government worked until they reappeared. So the intelligence sector, I had no idea really how it worked, but from what we heard on the ground that morning to the afternoon about alleged counter coup by Major William Jabo, okay, the information, the sources of information, in fact, the first thing the U.S. Embassy did after the coup was to deliver handsets to radio communication to be able to communicate with them on developments. The source of the information with Jabo coup actually sounded a lot more credible. And so when the PRC decided to send professional soldiers to go after the Jabo arrangement, and in my own case, the fourth thing that I did that day was what I told you, to proceed to Bento. So as to what actually transpired, the circumstances actually involving the overthrow of the government, concerns and bits and pieces of information about which I really cannot say definitively what transpired, who did what, within what time frame. Everything, as far as I'm concerned, is speculative, and I wouldn't want to lead this commission or leave with any impression that I had any definitive information as to what transpired up until the morning that I arrived at the executive mansion.
Thank you. Commissioner Silla.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Boley, for your testimony. No question.
Hello. Thank you for coming to share information and your experience with us at the TRC. We are happy that you have come today because it gives you the opportunity to clear your name and to give us information that we never had before.
I'm not understanding you, ma'am. I'm not hearing you.
You're not hearing me?
Yes, now I can understand.
You can understand me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. I was saying thank you for coming to be a part of the TRC process, and we are happy that you came because today you are able to come and make clarification on all of the allegations that were made against you. So we are happy that you were able to come. But I just want you to please tell us a little about the role you played when you were released from the prison on the morning of the coup, and you met Marcus Matthews and the other people behind the mansion. From there to your being appointed as, I don't know, a minister? Were you appointed as a minister or assistant minister?
Minister of State for Presidential Affairs.
Okay. The role you play and all of these things, we will need a little information on that, please. So if you could please give us some information on it.
Honorable Commissioner, I'm not sure I quite understand are you asking me to explain what I did in the position of Minister of State from April 12, 1980 until February 18, I believe, 1981, when I was transferred to the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications? I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by a role I play as Minister of State.
Yes, what you did as Minister of State, and also when you came out of jail.
Yes.
What took place? What did you see? And just give us a little information on what took place after you came out. How you got free from jail, who came to get you, where they took you, what was done there. These are all things we need to know.
Well, as I indicated, incidentally, the day of, or the day before the coup, which was that Friday, as I told you, the news I got in the prison was my wife had fallen out and was, not doing well. And my brother, who was with us at the time, he also was in prison, so like she was on her own. And I recall on that particular Friday when I raised the issue of the information I had gotten from Commander Kippat, Spongton Kippat. He was infuriated and said to me, as a matter of fact, that Friday, how did I get the information? And I said to him, I had an intuition. And I guess that further infuriated him. And he told me that in the post docket, there's a place they call interview room. I don't know if it's still there, but it was a little torture chamber. It's almost like the size of Mr. Tubman's grave out there, and in the top of it are spikes. That's where they put people like me who use words like intuition. So I was put in there just for saying that I had intuition that my wife had fallen out. It's like a tomb. You stay in there fewer than 5 hours and you leave blind completely. You can't squat or sit because the nails are not there, and you can't go up or sit down. Anyway, the long and short of it, that's really where I was on the morning of the coup. The soldiers that came and busted the entrance to the post stacking, I didn't know many of them. In fact, when they opened the cell, there was resistance to, sort of hold some of us back. And so the very first thing I did, as I said, I was in my brief, because we all were reduced to wearing briefs and, sleeping on the floor. In fact, my roommate, Kankalo, I don't see him here, but he will tell you it wasn't fun. But so the first thing I did was to leave from the post arcade to go up to what used to be the brigade headquarters, the old PX, that building at the front, to find a pair of trousers to wear. From there, as I said, I got a ride by some of the NCOs that recognized me and took me home to find my family. The third thing I did was to go to my uncle, who gives me a haircut so that I didn't come out with this thing that they put in your hair for rogues and prisons and whatnot. The fourth thing was to return to the mansion where I met Armo Kuya and Armo Matthews, and Oscar was trying to use the little portable typewriter, and immediately it was like organizing a government. I was appointed to try to organize the government with my colleagues. Okay, and one of the things we did was to find those progressive elements, while at the same time cabinet members were turning themselves into the government, either for safety or for protection. All of this on the money of the coup, behind the executive mansion in the Palaver hut. The next assignment I had immediately, given the intelligence information we had and the credibility of that information, was to proceed to Bentor, which I told you while I went, and this whole thing about what I did and the accusation. It was the very same, it was on that Saturday that we went to Bentor, with your Kalonko Oliver and the people I just named. Was on a Saturday, the same Saturday coup. Okay, you want to know what I did when I came back? I mean, literally, we slept literally out in the open. Then eventually, the next day, moved onto the second floor. I mean, into the parlor. So we day one in the Palava hut. Day two, we moved up into the building, and it was still helter-skelter with not being sure exactly what was going out there with respect to the counter coup. Basically, thereafter, it was trying to contain the situation. As you know, in these types of crises, there are all kinds of criminal elements that take advantage of that. I'm sure you were here. You saw a lot of things that happened. People were being arrested, being evicted from their homes, and these types of things. And my role, basically, as Minister of State, was to try to coordinate the activities of the council with the rest of the civilian cabinet, as well as to ensure that the members of the PRC, found an identifying role, for what they intended to do. So between that period, from that morning up until the day I left, which was like, or maybe 10 months later, the idea was to put a structure to the government. And one of the things we did, or one of the things that I participated in doing, was to get some people in here into the country, some of the government officials, for example, or people like Kolupine, the late old man Bagbaran, Tangaba, Jangaba, and many others, and to try to set up within the Capitol building a structure of the PRC so that all 17 of them didn't work out of Chairman Doe's office. So those were the types of order that we try to put into place, and that was the role that I played in terms of facilitating the organizational structure.
Can you also speak to the killing of the 11 men,
which 11?
Ex-officials of the topple government?
11 men.
The one that was shot on a pole.
I don't know about the 11 persons were shot at the fall.
The ex-officials that were shot on the pole, you don't know anything about?
Oh, you see, you said 11 men. I'm answering your question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe I missed the number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the interest that you have in that some number, you should forget. You mean the 13 men that were shot on the pole?
13.
Very well.
Yeah. Sorry for the mistake.
That's all right. What was the question again?
I said, can you say anything about that?
Nothing.
You were not aware of that?
Absolutely nothing. I didn't say that. I said nothing. I had nothing to say about that.
Okay. Another thing is that during your time as Minister of State,
Yes, ma'am.
was there any time that you advised the PRC government, acted as advisor to the PRC government?
As Minister of State,
Yeah.
there were times, many times, that I had the privilege of suggesting and advising our Chairman Doe and members of the PRC. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I asked that for a reason. Okay, when you were naming the people you met when you came out of jail, went home and then came back to the mansion, you called 3 names. Were they the only people there, including the one who was typing on the machine?
I honestly, Madam Commissioner, I honestly have no recollection of everyone, but I'll give you a mental picture because one of the gifts that I have, I'm not a very extraordinarily bright person, but I do have a very good memory. Thank God for that. And in the midst of chaos that day, when I returned to the grounds of the Executive Mansion, I recall Armo Bacchus Matthews. I recall, and from the civilian sector, I remember seeing Honorable Oscar Quia, Honorable Chair Chipo. When I got back to the building, those were 3 specific persons I recall meeting. The rest, Honorable Famulen, Honorable Tipoten, and others, I remember were someone later on during the day or at some point to the mansion. From the military contingent, a lot of the PRC members were around behind the Executive Mansion. I recall the late General Thomas Wilson, General Toh, Albert, Nelson Toh, that is, not Albert Toh, General Kumamba actually was between the mansion and the BTC as officers and people were being, taken to the barracks. I mean, there was an array of people that I cannot, I don't have a recollection of every single person, but those were the key people. In fact, the first thing that we were trying to do was to issue the first press statement. And if you recall the famous video that everybody still has around here, it was Matthews and I with Chairman Doe trying to get that first statement out. That's about it.
So in some way you were directly involved in decision making at the very onset?
In some way at the very onset, I was supportive. I was trying to put an organizational structure to the council so that it works like the government should work. As far as the Minister of State is concerned by statute, you have responsibilities, your responsibilities are limited. But remember now, we're operating a government that we never had here before. Okay? A military government that decided to partner with the civilian sector. So it was a new dispensation that we worked around with unconventional rules.
So when the decisions were being made to shoot, to kill the 13 men, you were not around?
When the decision was being made to kill the 13 people, was I around or was I not around? Is that the question?
Yeah.
I don't recall.
You don't recall that?
I don't recall specifically where I was. I certainly was not at the BTC, and I don't recall specifically when the decision was taken, and but the decision was taken and it was executed.
Okay. Thank you so much. If I have any question, we'll ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Dr. Boley.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Okay. You currently reside in the United States of America or here?
I currently reside in the United States.
Okay. Do you have a home or house here in Liberia where you will stay when you come family home or?
No, I do not. My house there was destroyed some years that we road, and it still hasn't been repaired.
Do you have family members or friends who live in a soul cleaning community?
Yes, I do.
Brother, sister, nephew?
My sister and my nephews and my nieces and nephews and sister and brother-in-law.
Okay. Thank you very much. For the record, I would like to clarify, Dr. Boley, in your initial comment here today, you stated that the TRC had not communicated with you prior inviting you to testify before it, and that you didn't have any official prior notice to come here. But I would just like to state for the record, according to a communication that I have here from the Secretariat of the TRC, which is dated on June 9, you were written, June 9, 2008, you were written by the TRC inviting you to please appear to testify. And that communication was sent to a place identified to be either your home or people who could reach the communication to you. And the place is in Soul Cleaning. And that communication was received by one Mr. Joseph Kwekwe.
Who?
On Joseph Kwekwe on June 17, 2008. And he signed for it, and also one Miss Emilia Boley, I suppose your sister, signed for it along with someone who identifies himself as your brother-in-law, Tom Bian. They all signed for this communication that was sent to you from the TRC, June 9, 2008. There was also a subsequent communication sent to you, dated on December 15, which we hope you received. So I just wanted the record to clarify that the commission did make initial efforts to contact you to testify. However, you're here today, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Those communications, for the record's sake, were not received. I have no knowledge of them. They may have, I don't doubt that my sister and brother-in-law did sign for them, but I had not received those communications. Otherwise, I would have complied.
Okay, thank you. Now, I have a few questions for you for the sake of clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
You spoke earlier and stated that the LPC was never a rebel group, neither was it a warring faction, if I'm correct. You stated that the LPC was a committee for the restoration of constitutional democracy in Liberia. That was the aim of the LPC. Now, I would just like you to please explain to us or clarify at what point did the LPC actually began engaging as a fighting force, because we did see LPC fighters on the front. There were stories, victims have come out to state their experiences. There were widespread media reports of LPC fighters. We've engaged in this process, former soldiers, fighters of the LPC. So I would just like to know if this is a different LPC from the LPC you are referring to, or if this is the same LPC, at what time was it transformed from this other LPC you're talking about to a fighting force?
If I do understand what you're asking, you are asking for the time frame of the LPC, the Liberia Peace Council, as organized by me in April 1990.
And also, yes, and also the LPC as the Liberian people know it to be a warring faction, because there was an LPC that was a warring faction. So whether it's the same LPC connected to you, or we're talking about two different LPC here?
Well, it has to be an LPC that I don't know anything about. Okay, the LPC that I know about is exactly what I told you about. Now, understand, anybody can call himself LPC. And the people who, and you know for a fact, the people who can go around, people who do go around and identify themselves in ways and manners that are quite opposed to what obtained. The reason I want to make this clarification, I know that everything that's written, all of the reports I've seen from your Amnesty International and all these reports and stories that you have accusing the LPC of all these atrocities, if it's the LPC per se that you're making reference to, I think those accusations are levied against the wrong organization.
Okay. Again, Dr. Boley, please bear with me for the sake of clarification. So you are saying that your LPC never engaged in the war as a group? They never fought? You never had fighters known to be LPC fighters? You've never been associated with any warring group called LPC, am I correct?
As a fighting force in terms of belligerence, I've just told you that the LPC for which I've given you documentation that I signed my name to, okay, it's the LPC that I organized, it's the LPC that I stand by, and it's the LPC that I know.
Okay, I will ask the question again, Dr. Boley, for the sake of clarification. This LPC you are talking about,
yes,
the soldiers, the members of, did you have any fighting group of this LPC? Did you have any soldiers or fighters attached to this LPC who were out there, who were fighting, contesting with other warring groups? Did you attend any peace accords for the peace process on behalf of this LPC?
Madam, there is really not a simple yes or no answer to these complicated issues. Now let me put it into perspective for you. You are addressing issues based on information you've collected that I have not had access to. As far as I'm concerned, from everything I've seen from the international partners to this organization, I'm an accused sitting here. Until I'm confronted with my accusers and I see the evidence that form the basis of this accusation, I'm really not in the position to answer either way on your charges. However, I told you, as of April 1990, until the Cotonou Accord, which was sometime in 93, if you recall, okay, The LPC, the much maligned LPC that everyone talks about, is the LPC that went from Benin to the UN, to foreign countries, trying to engage international leaders with respect to recreating a new formula for peace in Liberia.
I will ask this last question and then I will rest that question and we'll move on.
Yeah.
This LPC you are talking about, Mr. Witness, did it at any time transform, was it at any time transformed into a fighting force?
At what point, you said, does the LPC as an entity was transformed into a fighting force? Is that the question?
Yes.
At no point in time.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on. The LPC, at what one, was there any relationship between the LPC and the AFL of Liberia?
None whatsoever.
Mr. Witness, do you know one Ruth Milton?
Yes, I do know a Ruth Milton.
Do you know also that she was one of the generals of the LPC?
Who commissioned general in the LPC?
Excuse me?
Who commissioned general in the LPC?
Who commissioned the LPC?
I mean, you said, do I know if she was a general for the LPC?
Yes, for the LPC as a fighting force. She was one of the battlefront generals.
One of the battlefront generals? Is that what you said? One of the battlefront generals?
She was one of the generals for the LPC who fought the war.
Okay.
We'll move on. Dr. Boley, when you stated earlier, you confirmed that following the coup, you and some people went to the Bentor estate of the late President Talbot, and you said 2 suitcases were taken away.
2 briefcases. I give you that mention those briefcases.
Okay, thank you. 2 briefcases were taken away by you and given to the late President Samuel Doe. Now, at any time, did you hear or know anything concerning the contents of those briefcases that allegedly brought a rift between the late President Samuel Doe and the late Thomas Wesson?
I indicated previously that at no time was I informed of the contents of the briefcases until Dr. Emmanuel Dolo contacted me sometime in 2005. I hadn't heard anything about those briefcases. Remember, after the coup, there was this reacquisition commission, and items that were retrieved were others submitted to the reacquisition commission. I don't know what became of those briefcases, whether they were given to some commission or whether they kept them. I had no idea until 2005 when the issue was raised. Actually, the question was asked of me by Dr. Dolo.
You clarified the Charles Bayon situation, the late journalist who got killed. You clarified the situation concerning Charles Bayon,
yes,
the journalist who got killed. My question here is, according to family sources, the body was never turned over to the family. They made several efforts in trying to retrieve the body of Mr. Bayon for proper burial. Would you know, or did you hear anything, or do you suspect any reason why his body was not turned over to his family? Because the official excuse that was given following his death, President Doe announced during the press conference that when journalist Charles Bayon died as a result of a gun going off. But then again, the body was never turned over to the family for burial. Would you know why? Why not?
I told you that the first time I found out about Charles Bayon's death was at 5 p.m. November 16th, Saturday evening, 1985. I have no idea, no clue whatsoever.
Dr. Boley,
Yes, ma'am.
which I'm sure you're cognizant of, a lot of people die in this war, a lot of Liberians, a lot of innocent people too. And
Including my family members.
yes, exactly, and I extend sympathy to you for that. Clearly they didn't commit suicide. People hurt them. Do you feel should you feel responsible for having led a group that was a part of the conflict, directly or indirectly? Do you think you want to say something to the people of Liberia? Is there remorse? Do you feel anything like that?
Let me address the question in several phases. First of all, by your statement, you've said, having led a group that participated in a war. That's a declarative statement. That's an accusatory statement. Before I respond to that, let me preface the question, or preface my remarks. Certainly, madam, I just told you I lost more family members in this war than probably most of you combined. Those people didn't deserve to die. They certainly don't deserve to die. A lot of people in this country lost family members in this war, which eventually we term a senseless war. But you know, they started the war. We didn't, people just didn't go around here killing people. Nobody was going around there just killing up people. And as I said, certainly I feel bad and I'm really saddened by the loss of lives, especially those innocent lives that that were taken during this conflict. For those people, innocent people, those who were starved to death in BTC, and the many others who starved to death throughout this country, not killed by the bullets, but by the circumstances that led the bullets coming in. Oh, certainly, I'm sorry for those. I do feel remorse for those people. Very remorseful. And I really share the pains of this family. I live with the pain every day. You think you're living with pain. When you live in a society where you don't know where family members are, nothing can be more painful than to bring closure to a situation. So yes, madam, I feel for those people, and I really regret the incident of, the things that happened to them. And for those people, the innocent victims, I just feel very, very, I'm saddened for what happened to them. Okay. Now, then there are those people who I used to live near WA. I used to. And every morning I would jog along the beach and try to stay fit because, when you're getting old and ugly and all of that, you try to stay fit. When this war came to Liberia, financed by the Ellen Johnsons and the people I just named, Harold Reeves and all these people and others, supporters, many, many of them. I was saying the WA, the so-called NPFL people will come to Monrovia. Every morning as I jog, they say to me, oh, the other crown dog that tomorrow will skin him. I heard those comments. This crown dog was waiting to be skinned any day. I mean, am I to apologize for those people who failed to skin this crown dog? I'm just being practical. They came to skin this crown dog, you still wearing a crown skin. And I'm not being sarcastic, I'm just telling you plain talk. I told you I'll be frank, I'll be honest, and I'll tell you like it is. So, the two types of situations. Those innocent people who died, who really had nothing to do with the war. I mean, from across both spectrum. My heart goes out to them. It's regrettable that those many lives had to be lost. But there were people who were so consumed by whatever it is that it is determined to do that started this whole conflict. And the fact that I survived this war, if that's what you expect me to be regrettable about, I think, like I said, you're barking up the wrong tree. Because, you know, somebody came with determination to kill me, and I survived. I can't regret being alive. If I were to do that, then I have no cause to be here.
My last question. When you spoke about, you gave us a little background about yourself, your family,
Yes, ma'am.
and your upbringing, your own struggle. You mentioned the oppression, quote unquote, allegedly at the hands of the Rudy elite. You mentioned Congo people and all of that. Do you feel any ill feeling towards Liberians who are considered quote unquote Congo? What recommendations do you have to this commission to address some of those sentiments that are coming from people like you, that is, if you feel that way?
First of all, let me state categorically for the record that I inhibit no feelings of contempt or discontent or dissatisfaction or any feeling of ill will against anyone in this country. In fact, the reason for mentioning, for the comment, was to drive home the point in terms of historical antecedents. You know and I know what transpired in this country and where we're coming from. Personally, I have no ill feeling towards anybody. Because, and even despite all that is happening, some of us believe, and talking specifically about me, I believe that as the crisis came along, you have to guide people and let them know that not all people are bad, or in fact, not all people participated in what we perceive as the divide. In that light, and in that light only, I harbor no ill will. I see no class division per se, even though culturally, again, these divides, these so-called Congo country divide, you know and I know that realistically, culturally, economically, financially, class-wise, they do exist. The purpose of this commission and the purpose and what all of us Liberians should try to do is to calibrate our national to recalibrate our national compass so that we have a single identifying purpose as a nation, something that we, or things that we can all rally around and put aside who father was this and who came from where and who did what, so that we can move up. For without a purpose of unity as a country, we're going to find ourselves before long where we have been in these last 15, 20 years.
Just one last clarifying question. During the attempted abortive invasion of the late Mr. Kubumpa, when he was allegedly caught and killed in the Pinsville area. You were around the scene that day.
Yes.
Yeah, were you part of those who caught him, or did you just show up to?
The question is in twofold. Now I'll answer both sections. I was not on the scene when General Kwamba was captured. Now I know you've seen this video around the world with George Boley having an M16 rifle, and it's all carried out, was supposed to be, just trickle happy. That's not what happened. I told you that the Kwamba incident actually was intense in my neighborhood. And from that Tuesday morning, the entire neighborhood was tense. We all patrolled the neighborhood. Okay? When the general and the forces retreated, they were at large. We were all on a lookout, because I mean the horror of that day, you have to have been there to experience and feel it. It's easier to conjure questions and ask and to try to explain, but I'll try anyway. So two things. No, I was not on the scene, but I arrived eventually after General Kwamba was captured and killed. That was Friday, November 15, 1985. The second part of the question, did I participate? No, I did not participate. I said I arrived after his capture and his death, and was put in a jeep. The body was put in a jeep and driven to the grounds of the Executive National, from whence it was subsequently deposited at the Barclay Training Center. That's all I know on that day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Minister Boley, I think that's the last portfolio you were vice chairman on the Council of State.
Council of State, yes ma'am.
And you were representing LPC. Is that correct?
On the Council of State?
Yes, that they had Kuma, Taylor, I think Sanka Wolo was the chairman. I think you had Superwood Associate Justice Uma. Late husband James G. who was Chief Justice then. But you were 5. You were on the council, and I think somebody that were representing civil society. But you recall that you were on the Council of State representing LPC. Wasn't that the position portfolio you were holding? When you answer that, and I'm Commissioner Pearl Brown Bull.
Pardon me, ma'am.
I'm Councilor Pearl Brown Bull, and I'm trying to call you by your last portfolio, because in Liberia, former means forgotten.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's one of the things that I hope that with the ushering of this new democracy that we're trying to enjoy, that those who have served as former, that they will be recognized and they will not be forgotten. So that's what I want to auto your witness, but I want to address you with your last portfolio that you held as a government official of the Republic of Liberia. And I think that was served, by memory, up to 1996. You were still on the council, because my husband was still Chief Justice then, and I had the opportunity to go to the mansion, and I met you and Kuma, and there was something they were trying to do to them, and I said, you don't forget, you're a politician, and I am, and after all the things, you might need me. So you remember. So in your last position, can you tell us what was your last position, so I can give you the respect in that light?
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner, Councilor Pearl Bull of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The last position I served in was that of member of the Council of State, which was an interim leadership put in place in Abuja in August of 1995.
Okay, thank you. Now let me introduce myself and make disclosure. And based on my disclosure to you, you have without prejudice to say whether I can sit on this commission to interview you and whether I can be part of the decision in making recommendations concerning you. I feel I owe it to you because I believe that everyone should be afforded due process of law. As an author of the 1986 Constitution, I uphold that. And due process under Article 20A of the Constitution. So, you will have the choice, but with me sitting here and serving so long, without prejudice, I can go, but let me reveal this to you, and it's up to you. And you see, I put on dark shades, because when I took my oath, I've been around so long, I'm waiting my 50s late. And I said I have served around so much, and many of the people who will be appearing, witnesses or alleged wrongdoers, or I refer to them as actors, because after they come and we determine, then we can say whether what happened. But for now, actors, and I know some of them, and the oath that I took, that irrespective of who I know, I only hear and write that I don't see them. So that to do this, I put on my dark shades, and you one of those who I know very well. But it's up to you, it's your right to want me to sit here after I disclose to you what so much, but I just referred to you, I was on the council, I went to you then. And if the record may show, you were representing LPC on the council of state. Now, I am Pearl Brown Bull. I'm the widow of the former Chief Justice of Liberia, James G. Bull, Councillor James G. Bull. Councillor James G. Bull is the first cousin of L.V. Bayon, who is Charles Bayon and your daughter, Eblavi Bayon's grandmother. And they were like sisters and brothers. Now I think you might know Cousin Jimmy. They could refer to him as Cousin Jimmy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, now I can take off my shades because we understand each other. And he was, from where we come from, he was like a brother to LV and Adeline Neal. He was the oldest. LV Adeline was nice, and they were the baby, despite the fact she just celebrated her 80th birthday last year. So we know your daughter from baby up until the time, the last time I was with her, when she graduated. You were there, I was there also, and so was Cousin Jimmy. Secondly, L.V. Bayon is also a relative of mine, and in it, the mother of your daughter was very close to her wedding and everything. So even the day when Charles Bayon was announced killed, when she came there, it happened that we were at the house across there. Because now that I say Cousin Jimmy, remember who he is, and that in that capacity. Secondly, Sadie Boley, your niece, is the daughter of my first cousin, Mary Brisbane. And my first cousin, just like wherever y'all call me on one side, we look like first cousins on both sides, just like sisters and brothers. So I know your family well. But from where I sit, I believe, because of the knowledge that I have to put in the gap, I can be objective. But that right belongs to you. So in view of that, if you want me to proceed with asking questions, there won't be some prejudice, I will. If you feel not, I will recuse myself.
Honorable Commissioner, thank you. The comments made and the explanations given are well taken. I intimated to this commission that I am here as an accused. That is what the world knows. I am an accused, not only by this commission, but by the implementing partners of this commission. As we speak, and I really obviously would not have said anything about this other than a remark, there's a pending lawsuit in the U.S. District Court between agents of this TRC and myself.
Who the agent?
The agents,
And who they?
the implementing partner of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission,
They have so many. So which one?
the Minnesota-based group, the Advocates for Human Rights are based in Minnesota.
But it is your right to sue anybody who says something and let them prove it. I agree with you.
That's exactly what's been done. And with respect to the accusations, I have said to the chairman prior to, I'm sure you monitor this, I request that I be confronted by my accusers. I've made that known already. Because what was said is in no way just an allegation. It seems a determination, a foregone conclusion has to be made with respect to my role in the conflict with particular reference to the LPC.
Mr. Boley,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman, former Councilman Boley,
Yes, ma'am.
the question that I posed to you before we go into that, do you want me to ask you a question to sit based on the revelation without prejudice, or if you have a feeling for my integrity to be objective, then I can start with questioning? Or if you want me to recuse myself, you have the right, and I don't feel bad about it.
Madam Councillor,
But I wanted to,
based on how this commission sees me and given the multitude of allegations, I feel that this commission is prejudiced against me, and I really would, unless evidence is adduced, unless I am presented with the accused, I have no further comment with respect to queries from the commission.
you're talking about a commission. I'm talking about the commission. We are 8. I'm talking about Pearl Brown Bull asking questions. You don't know whether that you feel that, because I want to tell you, we all have prejudice against you. So I just want to know, I just reveal like what I know in terms of relationship, and I asked, do you want me to sit on any determination to ask you question or not? You have come with a conclusion that this commission is prejudiced against you. That point has been made. I'm sure you made it. Everything is on radio. Despite the fact you see me move from here, is monitoring. I've monitored everything. So you've made that point. Other commissioners will ask you questions. Every question may not be prejudicial. You have made that point the prejudice. That point is established. I just want, so nobody can say later, she was cousin to everywhere, that was her someone. I just asked, do you feel comfortable? Can you let me ask the questions, or you want me to ask or not?
I honestly, given the relationship as you narrated it, I prefer you recuse yourself from the hearing.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate that very well. Councillor Pearl, Commissioner Pearl Brown Bull, hereby in view of this disclosure made, says that she recuses herself from any questioning of former Councilman George Boley and witness on his stand, and I shall not participate in any determination or recommendation pertaining to him. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello? Hello?
Can we have some order, please? Audience. Stewart. Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you very much, Dr. Boley. for coming to this commission despite your feelings of the commission being prejudiced against you. Following up on the question posed by my colleague, Commissioner Washington, I would like to follow up again to seek clarification. In 1995, the Abuja Peace Accords, you were a signatory to that. Did you sign in that capacity as a representative of LPC?
No, I did not.
In which capacity did you affix your signature to the Abuja Peace Accords?
With respect to that particular question, I will invoke Article 21H of the Liberian Constitution, which says, and I quote, paraphrase, I'm under no obligation to induce incriminating evidence against myself.
The fact remains that with all due respect to your plea, but the fact remains that you were a signatory to the Abuja Peace Accords. And the signatories to the Abuja Peace Accords were the NPFL, Ulimo J and K, although Ulimo J in a lesser capacity, the Local Defense Force, Civil Society of Liberia, the Local Defense Force, the Liberia Peace Council, Ulimo, and the NPFL were basically the signatories to the Abuja Peace Accord. Am I right, or?
You're wrong.
Could you please correct me?
I said you're wrong. I can tell you what to do. You're wrong. You're just wrong. You go back and do your research.
Well, the fact, what I'm trying to establish is that LPC was a signatory to the Abuja Peace Accords.
Commissioner, let me tell you something. You're wrong. Go back and check the records. Okay? When you do that and you know what you're talking about, then you come and talk to me. Was that the LPC that you accompanied to Banga when you went to Banga and took pictures, which you brought back here? Was that the LPC? Was that the LPC that you went with to Banga to take pictures? Was that the group that you led with the ecomog equipment, took the pictures, brought them back, brought them to me, and delivered them to Mr. Taylor? Was that the LPC? When you decide that, come and talk to me. Is this the same Mr. John Stewart? Come back and talk to me.
It is the same John Stewart, former associate editor of the New Democrat Weekly.
Very
in that
well.
capacity, I did cover the fall of Banga.
No, you did not. You did not. You were the John Stewart who led the forces to Banga. You are the John Stewart who came back with photographs of where ECOWAS deposited the weapons and took those pictures, published them, not only that, but sold them to Mr. Charles Taylor for $30,000. You're the same John Stewart who stayed on Mr. Taylor's payroll until he left this country in 2003. When you decide which of the organizations I signed my name in, come back and talk to me. Honestly, Mr. Stewart, in all fairness,
Dr. Boley,
gentlemen, excuse me.
Dr.
Quiet,
Boley,
please. Quiet.
I must remind you that you are under oath.
I am on the oath.
And the period to which you referred.
Mr. Witness, please let me caution not
Caution
to.
the crowd, please.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we beg your indulgence.
Yeah, for
Do not Please do not interfere with the proceedings. The witness and the commissioner are having their exchanges time after time, and this will happen and you will see it. Please lower and manage your emotional response to whatever is happening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sir.
Do I have the floor? Commissioner Stewart, you intimated that you were a reporter. Did you not say that? You're a reporter?
Very well.
Ah.
You are aware of that.
Mr. Stewart,
As a matter of fact,
for the record, Mr. Chairman, for the record, I speak to you under oath. For the record, Mr. Stewart was the person who led the forces to Banga with the ecomog thing before Banga fell. This is same Mr. Stewart who came back from Banga with the photos of not only that Banga had fallen, Jubilating Banga has fallen. He took those pictures. Did you not share those pictures with me, Mr. Stewart? Not only did he share those pictures with me, Mr. Stewart took those pictures, and from this point now, what I'm telling you about those pictures is a fact. The issue of him having sold those pictures for $30,000 in CSA, and if it comes to that, I can prove the witnesses, and I can bring here to this commission the people, because when ECOWAS was going to Banga, Stewart speaks Pele. And you know, we who work all around, the people say, look, we came here to help you, you're frustrating us. Stewart volunteered, he speaks Pele, he knows Banga very well, to lead the forces. So he knows more about LPC, if that's the forces he took, than I do. When he answers that question, come back to me and I'll talk to you. And that's for the record, Mr. Chairman. Under those circumstances, John Stewart should not be sitting on this commission because he's prejudiced beyond redemption and should disqualify himself forthwith.
Mr. Witness, frankly, I am frankly disappointed.
And I will
but that's another
no
point.
Further question from the witness. I mean, from the commissioner.
You know, you have to answer my questions.
I don't have to.
Well, I'll pose them. You don't have to answer. I will
answer them.
I will pose them. But let me remind you, since you spread on record, let me also spread on record that I, 1994, went to Banga. I was serving as the associate editor of the New Democrat. I was contacted to go to Banga by Ms. Wede Koba-Wure. Yes. When Banga fell, there was no news of what was happening in Banga. And when I came back, after spending 3 weeks, I wrote stories in the New Democrat. Banga burns. Banga burns. It's there, it's on the record. I don't know, where were you at that time? And to have said that I led your forces, but the records are there. But let me just say what transpired. There's a young man sitting right here in the audience there. He's now an amputee, Monga. He was one of your soldiers in Banga. General Ruth Milton was the commander in Buchanan Afrawa Mill. Isaac Kana was your field commander. Emmanuel Tote, alias War Boss, who was killed in Bassa, was one of those. And these were all men I met on the field, and they were loyal to you, reporting to you. Now it surprises me that today you will make such statements on the oath. But I just hope you are aware of the implications. Now my question to you is, in which capacity did you sign the Abuja Peace Accord? Only warring factions were signatories to the Peace Accord. And you say that the LPC you formed was not a warring faction. So I ask you, in which capacity did you sign the Peace Accord? You plead the Fifth Amendment or the Article 21?
You know, Mr. Stewart, if I don't address someone like you, people listening will think that I've got something to hide.
I think you do.
You don't know what you're talking about, if I may be blunt. Until you know what you're talking about, come back and talk to me. That's the point I'm making. The people you name as signatories to the Abuja Accord, look at the accord again.
In which capacity did you sign the Abuja Peace Accord? As head of the warring faction? In which capacity did you sit on the Council of State? As head of the Wheelbarrows Association or as head of the warring faction?
I did not sit on the Council of State as head of warrant, as head of a warrant of a warrant faction. Let's get that very clear. Okay.
In what capacity?
I said on the council in the capacity of George Boley.
Audience, please, let's have it quiet, please.
And the reason I say that, excuse me, gentlemen, the reason I say that, Commissioner, is that are not in tune with the document that you're trying to pose questions from. And I've said to you, go back and do your homework when you determine, when you shall have listed the various signatories to that accord, and ask some questions that are sensible, then we can deal with that. Secondly, I have suggested that given your own condition and participation in the process, okay, you should recuse yourself from this commission because you did not go to Banga as you claim as a mere reporter.
Mr. Boley, my next question to you. My next question to you. General Satan, otherwise known as Paulson Gate, what is your relationship to him?
What do you mean, what's the relationship to?
Organizational relationship. I'm not talking about blood. I'm not talking about the consanguineal relationship.
I'm not aware of any relationship with Paulson Gate.
He was a commander of the LPC.
I see.
Oh, you're not aware of him? You don't know?
Under your command.
Emmanuel Tote.
Is that the LPC you led to Banga, 94?
Yes.
Okay.
Emmanuel Tote, otherwise known as War Boss, he was killed in Buchanan. He was mobbed in Buchanan by an angry crowd.
I have no relationship with Emmanuel Tote.
Isaac Cannon. Ruth Milton.
I told you.
Moses Collins.
Go ahead.
Where they come about where? No relationships. I don't mean social, I mean organizational relationships.
I just told you the organization you're talking about, as far as I'm concerned, within the context of the question, I am unaware of those relationships.
So you're saying that you bear no relationship to the LPC that was active, LPC in which the late Tequia and others served? You have no relationship to that LPC. Instead, your LPC was a different LPC.
The LPC that's accused of all these atrocities. It's not the LPC that I just described to you, and it's not the LPC that I explained what it did between 1990.
So which one of the LPC was on the council of state?
It's your LPC, you would know. Anybody can claim the LPC. Anybody can say I'm the LPC. Does that mean the LPC?
In your presentation, you talked about made mention to, and the chairman follow up on that question.
What?
You made mention about the former regime of President Doe, in which you served as Minister of State for Presidential Affairs until 1986, when I saw you resign. Or you resigned from the government in 1986, but you served initially as Minister of State for Presidential Affairs in the government, and you served in the government up until 1986. What would you say about the human rights record of the Doe administration?
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect to this commission, I had told Commissioner Stewart to recuse himself from this hearing. Commissioner Stewart, honestly, during the vetting process, should not have even accepted an appointment to this commission. You see, I know people listening out there, I'm very careful about what I said. The questions that are being asked are the wrong questions. These questions are based on preconceived notions on prejudices. And I'm on an oath, and what I say is exactly.
It appears to me that you are lying on the oath.
I am not committing perjury on an oath. You
I
don't
believe
know
you
what
are.
you're talking about. Before you post the next questions.
Mr. Witness,
Yes.
I want to take note of the petition just made that in light of the perceived prejudice
Yes,
of Commissioner Stewart, he should recuse himself
definitely.
from further participation in these proceedings. I respect your right to say so and to feel so, and I want to respect the right at this time of Commissioner Stewart to pose a question. With all due respect, if he poses a question and you don't want to answer for the record, just say on the same basis you refuse to answer, that will be sufficient, so that we pass this stage. Okay.
I'm Commissioner Pearl Brown Boley again, former Councilman Boley. I voluntarily recuse myself because I disclosed some relationship even to you and this thing and ask that. But I can tell you that I'll be very objective. Now, I have to be objective to say one thing. You just mentioned that you don't know how he got on the vetting process. I don't know whether you were not on the internet or people were not here. Just like me getting it, anybody else here. People send the list of names on. Perhaps even those who they're accusing of faction, they see maybe everybody send the people who they wanted to be there. But the panel expert, they were not just Liberians. You had the UN, you had ECOWAS, you had political parties, you had civil society. They made up the panel experts. And when people send in names, they didn't just sit in a conference like this. They publish it. I think there were about 160 something names. And they said, anyone who knows anything about these names,